All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Market Trading. I am your host, Vays. No camera today. I'm in the middle of travels and just didn't feel like setting one up. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another. And yeah, days at in the woods have come to an end. Time to start traveling again. I will be heading off to Arizona, Vegas, and then BitBlock Boom. So, and after that, Latin America. So, time to get the travel schedule up and running. And let's just go to the charts. I'm not sure if there's a video coming tomorrow, maybe, but Friday is going to be very, very tricky. That's going to be a long travel day. All right, we're already here. I'm on my website. Check out tonevays.com. There's a free Learn Trading section over in products and services. You can find the on-demand videos, which are a little more advanced than the free Learn Trading section. And of course, the MRI indicator itself. Tone, could you lay out a short trade on Binance token? Maybe. We'll take a look. Long-term chart. The long-term chart, I'm anticipating an up month next month. That was predicted, about 9 months ago. That when I drew this out, there were two potential paths. Bitcoin has clearly chosen the purple path, and you can see based on the purple path, we are very accurately depicting the month of August, and the month of September I'm anticipating to be a bullish month. Everyone is very confused as to what can possibly cause a bullish catalyst. And the more people are confused as to what can possibly cause a bullish catalyst, the more likely a bullish catalyst will take place. It feels like everybody's bearish right now. And I think there is going to be a pop to the upside and then falling and making potentially even lower prices back down to $28,000. This bear market is definitely brutal, and I think it's going to be with us for quite a while. I really gotta just get rid of this chart. I never talk about it. I'm just going to close it just in a way now. Weekly scale. Weekly scale is as boring as it can get. There's absolutely nothing happening. We are in the middle of a bearish MRI count. So it is also very, very possible that we'll continue go down or consolidate for the next 4 to 5 weeks, all the way into the end of September. Right now, the bearish, there's a slight bearish lean to this. Alphanumerics is bullish. The MRI is bearish. We are holding the moving average, which is bullish. We are consolidating after a drop from the highs of 31,000, which is kind of bullish. Which is kind of bearish, but we are also making a higher low, which is kind of bullish. This chart is all over the place, and I am not using it for any kind of, outlook one way or another. I was making a few charts yesterday. We're going to get to that one in a bit. Let's talk about the allocation. The tone-based allocation is currently at 50% bullish. I did not trust the upswing that took place last week. And right now we are down to the last 8 hours of current candle, and it looks absolutely disastrous. That means if next candle starts trading lower than these closing lows, that becomes a bit of a problem. Now, it's not a real problem until these moving averages start crossing the long-term moving average, and the long-term moving average starts declining. You can see that the long-term moving average will slightly go up next candle, but that doesn't really matter. I will stay with the 50% bullish allocation. However, the moment the price of Bitcoin falls below $27,000, I am very likely to go to a 100% cash allocation, because I can always go from 100% cash back to 100% long if the price of Bitcoin goes above $29,500. The good news is that the area where I become fully bullish is being lowered because the short-term moving average can cross over the intermediate-term moving average at a much lower level than it would have done, let's say, a week and a half ago. But it looks bad. Let's go straight to the daily chart. Daily chart also looks completely disastrous, but I am now very optimistic for a crash down to 27,000. You see, this is where shit gets confusing. On a 4-day scale, a move to 27,000 forces me into a 100% bullish allocation on a 4-day scale, which is the Consencio scale. On a daily scale, it would create the absolute perfect MRI buy opportunity at the 128-day moving average at a new low at $26,500 if we do make it here over the next 4 to 5 days. I would actually be super bullish on a daily scale, but it would be a mental bullishness because my allocations are based on a 4-day scale. Therefore, I am watching this very, very carefully, that we would bounce right off the long-term moving average, the intermediate-term moving average of 128, and go right into the 50, which would then create a bit of a dilemma, but we deal with that bridge when we get there. For now, I would be very bearish on a daily scale. In fact, I am incredibly bearish on a daily scale, and I am slightly leaning bearish on a weekly scale. Let's see what happens. 4-hour chart is just completely useless. I'm just going to delete all of this because now it's annoying. Well, I'm going to leave this one. God, that purple line is so brutal looking. On a 4-hour chart, that 28.8. Like, I'm not confident in Bitcoin at all right now that we're going to go higher. At all. GBTC is doing okay. It would be great to see a Bitcoin pull back to 27, 26.5 area, rally right off that, and then watch the GBTC discount go right up. Look, I don't know what's going on with the ETFs. I don't care what's going on with the ETFs. It could only cause an upswing. I don't see it causing a downswing. Oil. Where's my scale? What happened here? There it is. Oil. Let's talk about something more interesting. No, wait. Before we go to oil, I got some cool charts to show you. Before we go to oil, well, first off, before I do that, Financial Summit coming to the UAE. It is now 3 months away, so come get your hotel room at an incredible resort in the desert of UAE, not far from Dubai. Here is what your room will look like. Your own private pool. That's the bathroom. I think it has even like an outdoor shower as well, because it's nice and hot out. If you want to just shower outside, it's got a big wall around it. That's your office. That's your private pool. That's your bedroom. That's the room that comes with your entry to the Financial Summit. This room is included for 5 nights. You have animals. It's in a nature preserve. And if you want to upgrade, this would be your room. It's an incredible event. You meet lots of high net worth individuals, traders, investors, VCs. Absolutely incredible event. Check out our YouTube channel, which is going to have a lot more content. We are almost at 1,000 subscribers, guys. We are up to 917 subscribers. We are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. We are also trying to get to 4,000 hours watched in order for us to remove ads from this channel. Most people are trying to get to these numbers in order to add ads and profit from the ads on this channel. We are not. We are trying to get to that number so we can remove ads from the channel if YouTube lets us. That is our goal. And there is a Twitter space happening. Where's the? I can never find the goddamn tab. We have a Twitter space coming up. I already retweeted it. It's going to be actually at 2 p.m. I think this tweet has been switched. The space should be at 2 p.m. Let me delete this tweet. We are moving it by 1 hour. How do you delete a tweet? Oh, you have to unretweet. Undo retweet. I'm going to go to the Financial Summit Twitter handle. It still says 1 p.m. Damn it. It's going to be at 2 p.m. I don't want to retweet it. Hold on. Let me text the team. All right. It will be at 2 p.m. I'll retweet it in a minute once the clock is 2 p.m. Eastern. So we put together a few charts. Tour de Meester. I saw a reply from Tour de Meester looking for an update to the following chart. So we went ahead and did that. So check this out. Put this together yesterday. And you can see this is Bitcoin paths from the halving day. If you like this tweet, please like us. Please subscribe to us. Please follow us on Twitter. We are trying to get to 5,000 followers on Twitter. 1 second. And we would love to, be more motivated to do nice research and beautiful charts where you can see each Bitcoin bear market has given people incredible opportunities to buy Bitcoin approximately 900 days after the halving. Or in the case of the original 4 years, 900 days after the invention of Bitcoin. And after that, 900 days after the halving. So if we do 365 days a year, approximately 2.5 years since the halving, Bitcoin gives incredible opportunities. You may not have caught the ultimate low. Right here, the low was 150, but you could have still bought Bitcoin at $200 back in 2015. You could have bought Bitcoin at $3,000, including the very low in Bitcoin back in late 2018, early 2019, and $15,000 in late 2022, early this year. You had an opportunity to buy Bitcoin at 15. Now, as you guys know, my personal trading method is not to try and catch the perfect low when it happens in consolidation. I am generally bearish in consolidation because I don't know where the next low is going to be. Here is a consolidation at the low at 6,000, and we fell 50%. Here's a consolidation low at 25,000 and 25,000, and then we fell down into 15,000. Okay, so consolidations at the low tend to cause you more prices. So I'm not going to assume that within this window, we could not have fallen down to, say, 9,000. And within this window, we could not have fallen down to 1,500, which people think I still wait for. And over here, when we were consolidating at 250, we actually did fall down below $200 at the very end of this consolidation. So everyone has their own trading method. Same thing right here. You would think this is the low at around $3 back in 2011, but in fact, it did fall a little bit lower down to $2 within this window. But this is clearly a window. And now that we have passed an entire year since that window, or let's say 9 months since that window, it's fairly clear that this low is very likely going to stay. You can also see that every time before the halving, in its final year before the halving, there has always been a big run-up and a crash. A run-up to 750 and then a crash back down to about 500. A run-up to 10,000 and then a crash down to 4,000. So again, we can potentially anticipate a run up in the price of Bitcoin to say 40, 45,000, followed by one more drop before the halving down to current prices. Or in the case of the last halving cycle, a bit lower than that. So it's just something to consider, a really, really cool chart. And because the very first cycle of Bitcoin was so huge based on percentage levels, it only made sense to do one more of these charts just to highlight. Oh, no, that's the same one. Just to highlight what it looks like without basically the 3 run-ups after the halving. So if we eliminate that very, very first 4 years of Bitcoin's life, which also fell into this buying zone, you can see that on a more clear level, that around 2.5 years after the halving, 175 days, 875 days, so 365 plus 365, that would be 7 and change plus an extra 100 or so days. Yeah, about 2.5 years into the halving, until let's say 3 full years, you had amazing opportunities to get into Bitcoin at the lows. And now is the time where Bitcoin struggles. Bitcoin struggle right here. So if we make this equivalent in terms of time, Bitcoin continued to struggle all the way into, say, October of this year. And Bitcoin also continued to struggle in the last cycle, also into October. So we can easily struggle all the way into October. There's also a slight difference as to when the halving was. The next halving, the 2013 cycle, the 2013 to 2020 cycle, 2014 to 2020 cycle, had a lot of hash rate come online, and the halving came 3 months earlier than last halving. This halving, I am expecting it in March, so I'm expecting the current cycle to be a little bit faster than the last cycle, but we will see where it goes. Okay. Also, we're putting together another chart. A long time ago, I wrote an article back in August of 2014. You have to realize how far back that is. August of 2014, I wrote an article for Cointelegraph. That's me. I am, of course, a deleted author, but the article remained in the Cointelegraph blockchain, which is actually more immutable than the Ethereum blockchain, because I still see this article. Not a single word in this article has changed, but yet Ethereum has changed the history of their chain and their transactions, because the DAO hack took place after this day, if my memory serves me correct. And therefore, the Cointelegraph blockchain remains more immutable than the Ethereum blockchain. Why delete the author? I don't think people realize how the entire crypto world hates Tone Vays. I'm deleted everywhere. My charts seem to be missing as well. That's unfortunate. But what's not missing is this. This was a time analysis. As you guys know, I am a fan of Martin Armstrong. I'm not a fan of his views on Bitcoin. I don't really take his advice when it comes to making investment decisions. But I think he's one of the best economists of our time. I think he understands government and money as well as anyone alive. He understands how government functions. He understands how economies rise and fall, how countries rise and fall, how superpowers rise and fall, and how currencies of countries go into hyperinflation and why they go into hyperinflation. His knowledge in those subjects are second to none. I also credit him for getting the stupid idea of gloom and doom bloggers out of my head, being a gold bug out of my head, being way more pro gold and less pro silver. So he's done a lot, for my understanding, in how economics works. And I will say that a lot of hard money guys and a lot of Austrian economists, they get it wrong. Martin Armstrong has one of the best understandings of how economies rise and fall. And his model relies on pi because he believes the world is a circle and things repeat quite often. And he really believes in pi and pi cycles. And based on his models, I wanted to create a pi cycle for Bitcoin to identify significant dates to watch out for in Bitcoin's history. Now, what does it mean by dates? And you can identify these dates way ahead of time. And I put this together. And these dates go on and on and on, right? I could have put these dates out all the way to 2030, okay? And these are the critical dates for the life cycle of Bitcoin. Now, every economy, everything has its own cycle. Like Martin Armstrong has a cycle of war, which he said was going to turn up in 2014, and it's still rising. And 2014, as you know, that's when the Ukrainian revolution took place, the Maidan events in Ukraine, Russia intervening on behalf of Syria early 2015, and that basically led us to today. So the Russia-Ukraine situation really kicked off in 2014. I was reading Martin Armstrong long before 2014. He was saying that the war cycle is going to get kicked off in 2014. I mean, no one knew that the Ukrainian revolution in 2014 would lead to, potential nuclear war that we're in today, but clearly it has. Tensions have not been this high, potentially ever, not since the Cuban Missile Crisis. And again, at the time where one of his biggest points was going to be March, or I forgot what month, but I think March 2015 was going to be one of his monster turning points, and nothing really happened that week other than Russia intervening in Syria on the behalf of the Syrian government. And again, at the time, this didn't seem important, and it seemed like it's totally meaningless. But now that it's been 8 years since the day Russia intervened against the United States on behalf of the Syrian government, and now the situation in Ukraine and Russia potentially going head-to-head with NATO, it basically, in hindsight, and everything is always hindsight, in hindsight, it showed the decline of the United States government, and that a country like Russia is willing to take on the United States military head-to-head, and they are not scared of it. So between the Ukraine situation and the Syria situation, it's clear that there was a huge turn in world superpowers in late 2014, early 2015. Now, the United States has its own cycle based on pi. Every country has its own cycle based on pi. And Bitcoin has its own cycle based on pi. And I was the first to present it. I did this in a 2014 article. I should probably put a line on that. That was August 2014. Let me put that in here. And I'll reference the article so you can see when I wrote it. August 2014, May, June, July, August 18. Come on. September 1st. Good enough. Okay. I'll make this line green. Okay. So that's where I write the article. I should put a label, otherwise I'm going to forget what it is. That's way too low, actually. Hold on. This is why you shouldn't do this stuff on live air, because it takes too much time. Coin Telegraph Telegraph article on pi cycles. That was when it was first presented. Let me grab the link. Hope the same boring people. Okay. I'll put it here. That's when I wrote the article. So in that article, I pointed to two future dates that were going to be significant in Bitcoin's life cycle. I didn't know how they were going to be significant. And I will play my own devil's advocate and my own critic, where every single hour of Bitcoin's life, you can point to a critical event happening that hour, right? We can point to anything. We can say, hey, I select these dates in the future, and no matter what happens that day, I will identify that event as a critical event that without this event, Bitcoin would have died, okay? So, but in that article, you can clearly see me saying that in June 2015, and I'm very specific, right? This is to 2015.46. So you have to convert 0.46 into days, and someone emailed me literally to the hour of when this would be, right? Because the math is quite simple. You just got to write some Python code where you know the number pi, you know how many digits pi has, and you know when Bitcoin was born, you know when the Genesis block was mined, though you could also use the date of the white paper, but I use the date of the Genesis block. And based on the Genesis block, you have exact numbers down to the minute of, you know, the next important turning point. And one pi cycle is 8.61 years. That's one pi cycle, right? Like pi is 3.14. And I show you the math right here. Divide that by, I don't want to sound like Bo Poli, you know, the former chiropractor that tends to predict stock markets based on the size of the pyramids of Egypt. I don't want to go down into that world. But on a very, very basic scale, anyway, when I explained the concept here in the math. So you can go ahead and, you know, reread this article and follow it. In order to find this article, you go to Tom Vays, Products and Services. You can find my old publications. I stopped, you know, filling this out. I just got bored. And it's one of these Time articles from August 2014. It will be Intro to Time, Part 1. There's also an Intro to Time, Part 2. I wonder what the hell I wrote there. I don't even remember. Too bad this chart doesn't show up. Some of my charts show up, some don't. Kind of sucks. Oh well. What are you gonna do? Back to the chart. Where are we? And back to the article. Sorry, this article. And I wrote that in June 2015, something interesting is going to happen in the life of Bitcoin. And then in August of 2017, something super important is going to happen in Bitcoin. Now, this article was written in 2014. I had no idea what was going to happen in August 2017, but I was going to pay attention to it. And leading up to August 2017, the day was narrowed down. Like I just wrote it here, but if you convert 0.62 into years, the day you get is August 11th. Now, if I go back to the chart, here's August 11th. It says August 7th because the chart's on a weekly scale. If I put the chart on a daily scale, the red line will come in on exactly August 11th. August 11th, right there. Okay, it's just that it's hard to it's just hard to see everything on a daily scale. So this is on August 11th, even though it says August 7th, and I had no idea what was going to happen on August 11th when I wrote the article in 2014. Now, what did happen on August 11th? So August 11th was the day that SegWit was confirmed into the code, which I believe today is one of the most important events in Bitcoin's life. And the day was predicted back in 2014. Now, what happened in June of, and that day is June 15 or the week of June 15, when the dates narrowed down. And that was the pinnacle of the Greek banking crisis. Now, for me personally, the two most critical events for me prior to 2014, it was not Silk Road, actually, even though back on the very first quarter life cycle, because within the first pi cycle, these halves and these quarters really matter because we haven't gotten to the full cycle yet. So until you get to the full cycle, I'm paying attention to the quarter cycle, half cycle, and three-quarter cycle. And the very first quarter cycle actually corresponded to the launching of the Silk Road website. Now, to me, the launching of the Silk Road website kind of went unnoticed because I don't do drugs. So I completely ignored this event, even at the time. In hindsight, the pi cycle corresponded to that. Maybe if I do an eighth of a cycle, I wonder if that's going to correspond to WikiLeaks event. I'm really, really curious. We can actually kind of divide that, right? I'm not going to do it on air, but so this cycle would have come. So this is 2.15 years after the creation of Bitcoin. So that would have been exactly 1 year and 1.07. So 1 year and a month. So 1 year and a month after the creation of Bitcoin would have been around January, February of 2010. And that's about 2 months after Satoshi commented on WikiLeaks. That happened in December of 2010, I believe. I believe that happened in December of 2010. WikiLeaks was proposed. Something with WikiLeaks could have been in that zone. But anyway, let's not. But like I said, once you have a date, you can always make up shit, or you can always use the smallest thing to matter for that date. Now, after you pass the full cycle, the quarter cycles become less relevant. And after you pass a lot of cycles, these 8.5-year terms become slightly less relevant, and 10 times 8.5 years become super relevant. And 54 years is also relevant. Anyway, we're not there yet with Bitcoin. So after that, after this date, I kind of didn't pay attention to the next quarter cycle. And the next quarter cycle came and went in September at the end of September of 2019. I don't remember anything significant happening on this day. If we go to the daily chart, I'll tell you the exact day, the 18th of June. If anyone, I didn't go digging. I just don't remember anything memorable from the day or the week of June 2015. Oh, sorry, June 2015. Sorry, stepping back here. My bad. Over here. September 5th, 2019. My bad. That's the date. September 5th, 2019. If anyone remembers anything, like you have to remember it. Like you shouldn't have to go Googling for it. But you may have to go for it. But like I don't remember anything significant happening on this quarter pi cycle. And that tells me that these quarter cycles are probably no longer relevant. Now, sometimes these days correspond directly to tops and bottoms in the price of the asset or in the price of the market. Like the US economy is also the US stock market. They are tied at the hip. The Bitcoin ecosystem is tied at the hip with the Bitcoin price. So I'm not surprised that every now and then one of these critical days will correspond to a major top or a major bottom in the price of the asset itself. And the next half cycle, which I also somewhat ignored and didn't pay attention to, but the half cycle is somewhat important. So I will pay attention to the half cycle going forward. And while it didn't align perfectly with the top in Bitcoin, had I paid more attention to the end of November in 2021, I might not have ignored this double top as vigorously as I did, as I was still very, very bullish in the price of Bitcoin at the end of November. Had I paid attention to my own date, I might have been a little bit more skeptical, and I would have treated that date as a potential top because the top did come, maybe not perfectly on that day, but within 10 days of that top. And the next quarter cycle is coming in January of 2024. I'm not paying too much attention to it, but I will keep an eye on it just in case. But I am very, very closely paying attention to the next full pi cycle, which is coming on March of 2026. Again, I have no idea what's going to happen in March of 2026, but I will, if I am still on YouTube, and if there is still YouTube, and if we all exist in 2026, I will be paying attention to this date. I did not mean to go off on a 45-minute tangent on the pi cycle in Bitcoin, but considering I haven't talked about it in years, I guess this became the video for that. I'm not going to treat a Head and Shoulders as a life-changing Bitcoin event like everything else prior to this line was. Oh, sorry, this one. Like everything else prior to this line. All right, let's move on to traditional assets like oil. Bitcoin is going down. I am, as I said 10 minutes ago, I was very, very concerned for Bitcoin. We are coming up on an MRI buy on a 4-hour scale that could lead to a bit of a pullback. We are now hitting this purple line of 28,800 for the 5th time. 1 second, guys. We are hitting this line for the 5th time. Hold on. Let me pause this. All right. Okay, back. I really don't like coming to this purple line for the 5th time, and I have a very, very high probability that this line is going to break. So I take this green arrow. Oops. This arrow really should not be green, and I'm going to move it over to here, make it shorter, and then I'm going to take this arrow and I'll move it right there. So shit looks bad. Speaking of bad, the oil, natural gas trade, clearly that hit a stop loss yesterday, so I can get rid of this. Nice try. The trade certainly was 10% profitable. No one should have lost money on this trade, and potentially there's one more shot at this. That is a red star candle on the daily scale, but we are continuing to make higher lows. So there is still a good chance that we will bounce right off of this. Okay. Oil. Today is Wednesday. Do we have the data yet? I don't think so. The price of oil is going down. This tells me that the US government has started selling off strategic oil reserve again. But it's really weird because remember, last week, they told us that they actually bought oil. I cannot make sense of it at all. I am dying to see this next line. It's unlikely the number is there. We're about to find out together. So 8.4, they bought oil. What did they do 8.11? Today is already like what, 8.16, 8.15, 8.16. Let's refresh this page, and we do not have the data yet. The data is coming later today. I have no idea what this data is going to be. See, it says release date 8.14. That was yesterday, and we still don't have the data. So I mean, this website is just weird. If anyone has the data, I'm dying to know what it is. Okay, I'm dying to see this number. And but this number reflects what happened last week. And last week was a monster doji candle. So last week they could have bought oil to cause the price to go up. They could have also sold oil to make the price go down, or they also could have done nothing. Now, this week, the price of oil is going down. So I have a sneaky suspicion they sold oil this week while buying oil 2 weeks ago, which would be insane and the sign of a schizophrenic in charge of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. I can't make sense of it. We are coming close to an MRI top. I need to do a video tomorrow, or hopefully if the numbers come out before Twitter Spaces, we can do that. Twitter Spaces at 2 p.m. today. Join us on a financial summit. If I have the numbers by 2 p.m. today, we're going to talk about it in Twitter Spaces. Gold looks as bad as Bitcoin. We are coming up on critical support at 1925. And if that support is broken, once again, I'm going to slide this arrow over and the price of Bitcoin would fall down to this next moving average support. Guys, I only have like 5-10 more minutes. And then give me 1 second again. Oh, that's all right. S&P 500. S&P 500 is pulling back. I was very, very hopeful that this MRI buy would lead us for a 1 to 4 candle upswing. And I was technically right, but it was only 1 day. I thought it was going to be closer to 4. It turned out to be 1. This red star candle that we have right now is an outright disaster. It has broken horizontal support. It has broken MRI support. And it is now on path for a second consecutive MRI buying opportunity. So I am now anticipating significantly lower prices in the S&P. This goes away. I am now short-term bearish on the S&P 500. Here's what a difference 1 day makes. And now I am looking for a move all the way down to the weekly area of support of right here, 4350. 4350 is now my S&P target. The oscillators are rolling over badly. So let's see if this 4350 area of rising trend line Yo, Tommy. Oh, never mind. Can't hear me. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I was on mute. I kept playing around with the mute button because I had to get someone's attention. So you missed my entire speech about the Russian ruble, and I'm gonna not repeat it because I probably would have pissed a million people off. So we're just gonna skip that. And I don't know what I said about the S&P, but I am looking for the S&P to go down into the 4350 area. Yeah, I messed up with a mute button when I was yelling at someone who still didn't hear me. I kind of flipped them around. Anyway, what I was saying about the Russian ruble is, to me, it's a reflection of the battlefield. And I do think Ukraine is doing incredibly well. They have evened out the kill ratio. They have prevented Russia from taking additional territory. And they have created issues with morale in Russia. That's my personal view. That's my own opinion. I know guys like Colonel McGregor and what's his name? Scott. Oh man, what the hell's his name? Jesus Christ, I can't figure out his name. Anyway, I know those guys have been saying Ukraine is on the verge of collapse, but they're not on the verge of collapse at all. They seem to have found men. They seem to have found the military. Russia has not allocated 300,000 to 500,000 troops that they supposedly inscripted. Those people are missing. Wagner is no longer in the fight. And from me paying attention to the battlefield, Russia is doing absolutely terribly. Now, you can disagree with that, but that's my Scott Ritter. Thank you. Like for me, I like what Scott Ritter has to say. I like what McGregor has to say, but for the last 6 weeks, they have been very, very wrong, in my view, based on my assessment, my personal assessment, with lots of critical thinking on about the situation on the ground. So for those that expected Ukraine to be toasting in Crimea, they think the Ukrainian offensive is doing terribly. But I thought that Russia would already have control of Kharkov and Odessa, and Russia's not even close to those objectives, if they are objectives. So to me, Russia's doing terribly. To them, Ukraine's doing terribly, and the Russian ruble reflects that. If you see the Russian ruble suddenly rally like this, it basically tells me that Ukraine is in serious, serious trouble. I also think the current Ukrainian offensive is creating lots of issues in Russia, both politically and socially, because if Russian military cannot advance in Ukraine, then everyone in Russia is going to be scared that a military draft is coming. And if everyone in Russia is scared that a military draft is coming, smart, young Russian men, that is the majority of the entrepreneurs in any country in the world. Let's not be, stupid and treat everyone as equals. The majority of young, out-of-the-box, innovative thinkers that start companies are risk takers, which are young males. And if your country is losing a lot of young males, like between the ages of 18 and say 27, 28, your country is in trouble. And Russia is going to lose a lot of their best talent pool for their economy if people in Russia are afraid they're going to get drafted into the military and go fight in Ukraine, which a lot of them don't want to do. Some of them want to do it, but most of them don't. So, for example, if I was of that age in Russia, I would probably find a way to get the hell out. And many of them did that. So this is bad for the Russian economy. And that's what I mean. Like when you see the ruble devaluing like this, now the Russian government likes it because it makes their goods more attractive, but it's bad, and it's a bad signal to the rest of the world. So if you see the ruble appreciating, it means Russia, that means Ukraine is about to run out of weapons, and it is about to run out of men, and it is about to run out of morale. But morale is also an issue in Russia. So my statement is Ukraine is doing very well on the battlefield. They have equaled the kill ratio. But I think Ukraine is going to run out of people and run out of morale to fight before the Russians will. But I could be wrong on that statement. Well, not about the equipment part, about the morale part. It is possible, though less likely, that Russia will lose morale for the fight, and there could be an overthrow in Russia and a revolution in Russia, potentially before a revolution in Ukraine. A revolution in Ukraine would remove Zelensky and put in a more pro-Russian government or an anti-American government that would negotiate peace and secede and basically surrender to Russia. I think that is still more likely to happen in Ukraine than a Russian overthrow of Putin. But you have to realize that a Russian overthrow of Putin is not going to put in a pro-Western leader that surrenders to Ukraine and America. A Russian overthrow of Putin would put in a bigger hardliner, someone from the Soviet era, someone that is potentially more into communism than Putin is. So an overthrow of Zelensky will not lead to a bigger anti-Russian president, but an overthrow of Putin has a high probability of leading to a more anti-American, more anti-Ukrainian, more anti-German and British leader of Russia that will basically not give a shit how many Ukrainians he kills. Where at the moment, I do think that Putin still cares about how many Ukrainians are being killed. But if Putin is overthrown, it gets worse for the West as far as who to deal with than better. I think Putin is potentially the most reasonable, level-headed person that could be leading Russia at the moment. Whoever is next in line, unless it's Lavrov, is going to be a lot more aggressive towards NATO and the United States. So anyone wishing for an overthrow in Russia is completely misguided as to what's coming, if that happens. No idea what this chart is. Oh, that's me putting this together. Okay, I can kind of close this. And this. They're safe. The Fed is likely not to raise rates, but we are going to have another CPI reading coming up. Uh, 400 dead in the last year. Russia lost 30,000. I think those numbers are a little bit skewed in favor of Russia. I think Ukraine, while it's possible Ukraine lost 400,000, I don't believe Russia only lost 30,000. I believe Russia lost closer to 60,000, but they lost the majority of that in the last, not the majority, but they lost a significant amount in the last 2 months. Okay, so this is the problem. It's not how many people have died in the last year and a half. It's what is happening in the last 2 months. And in the last 2 months, if I had to guess, and this is just a guess, I don't know these numbers. If I had to guess in the last 2 months alone, Ukraine probably lost 40 to 50,000 people, but Russia probably lost 10 to 15,000 people in the last 2 weeks alone. Okay, so 2 months alone. The last 2 months have, or you lower those numbers, but what I'm saying is the overall kill ratio significantly favors Russians, but the kill ratio in the last 2 months has evened it out. The last 2 months is very, very even. And when the ratio is even, it is very, very bad for, like, it's worse for Russia. Like, it's great for Ukraine. Like, it makes the Ukrainians want to fight more, and it makes Russians want to fight less. And it's a very, very critical situation for Russia, that if they are not able to get back to a 5 to 10 kill ratio against Ukrainians, there will be a lot of Russians that are going to be against this war. Like, in order for Russians to continue to be in full support of the war, they need that kill ratio to be above 5 to 1. Otherwise, it's not a good deal for Russia. So if Ukraine is able to get the kill ratio down to 3-1, 3 dead Ukrainians for every Russian, that's a huge problem for Russia. America doesn't give a fuck. They don't care if every Ukrainian dies. Zelensky doesn't care. Right? Like Germans don't care. Brits don't care. Nobody cares. The only people that care if Ukrainians die are the mothers of Ukrainian soldiers. It's the only humans on the planet that care if Ukrainians die are the mothers of Ukrainian soldiers. Nobody else seems to care. Right? Because if they cared, they would have stopped this already and made Ukraine neutral. But nobody cares. No one gives a shit. So, but if Russia is not able to get this kill ratio to 5-1, with hopes that they will reach their objective of militarizing Ukraine, Russia says denazifying, in order to make it sound more impressive. But it's demilitarizing Ukraine. That's their objective. So, but in order to demilitarize Ukraine, they need to kill the Ukrainian military, but they can't. But if all of the Russian military dies in the process, that's not like a good trade-off for Russia. So if they can't get, that kill ratio back to, I would say above 5-1, like we're talking 7-1, 9-1, like closer to 10-1, it becomes a big political problem for Russia. No, giving Crimea to Russia will not end the war. These 4 territories have already been declared Russia by Russia, and they will not give them up. Any peace talk between Ukraine and Russia would have to have Ukraine admitting that all of these regions are Russia, including this gray zone here. So Ukraine would have to leave, like not the whole gray zone, but this dashed line. Ukraine will have to secede this territory, and I find it hard to believe how Russia would allow Ukraine to operate any more ports in the Black Sea. So Russia is also going to demand Odessa, and in order for Russia to get to Odessa, they would also need Mykolaiv, and but there's still a chance that Ukraine can keep Kharkov. There's a chance. But like I said, if Russia doesn't go back on the offensive, and it's harder, it's very challenging. Like Russia is struggling; they are struggling right now. Contrary to what McGregor says and what Scott Ritter says, Russia is struggling on the battlefront right now. Ukraine is also hitting their supply ships. They're hitting the bridges. They're hitting targets in Russian territory. They're hitting targets in Crimea, and that looks very, very bad and makes Russia look weak on the global stage. So Russia needs to turn this around, and soon. Otherwise, there is going to be political instability in Russia, in my view. Okay, let me get to like a few questions, and then I gotta go. Cohen, what do you make of Michael Burry's massive short on the stock market? I make absolutely nothing of that. I don't do what Michael Burry says. As far as I know, Michael Burry had one very profitable trade that he broke his own rules for and prevented people from withdrawing from his fund because he went into the trade too early, and he almost went broke before making money on it. So he almost lost his entire fund. So let's not call Michael Burry the greatest risk manager in the world. Pi cycle indicator indicates we are at the same stage as early 2019. It's possible. Thoughts on North Korea nuclear comments? I'm not familiar with North Korea's latest nuclear comments. Okay, guys, that's it for me. We can glance at Bitfarms. Bitfarms is looking nice. I would look for support right here in the $1.20 range. And I think that's it. What's your thoughts on the Trump Georgia indictment? Are they going to have look, how can I say how can I say this? Every single person creates 3 felonies a day that can spend a lifetime in jail for, and they're going after Trump for political reasons. Every single person, especially a public person, every single politician, if you are a garbage commissioner in your city, can be arrested on federal charges of everything under the sun. So America has so many laws and so many crimes that Trump can be in prison for 18 life sentences for all the crimes he has committed. But so can everybody else, including Biden and Kamala and everyone under the sun. The only reason they're going after Trump is for political reasons. And hopefully Trump becomes president, he pardons himself, and he throws Biden in prison, Biden's entire family in prison for the rest of his life, along with Obama's, as retaliation. That's all I can say. Do I think the charges are bullshit? Yes, of course I do. Can they prosecute him and put him in jail? Yes, I think that as well. Oh, Binance. All right, let me look at this. They're just trying to make sure that every day of Trump's life for the next year and a half is spent going into courts instead of on the campaign trail. So Binance looks like crap. I would already be in a short trade. That was a 1 to 4 candle correction. It was exactly 4 candles, and now we're going down. If you want confirmation, wait for the break of the moving average at 0.0077, or you can wait for the break of the support line. I can even raise the support line as much as I can. But this is the path for Binance. It didn't even make it to my bullish target of the moving average, so it's weaker than I expected. I wouldn't fault anyone for already being short, but there are 2 more points of confirmation. All right, guys, it is on an 8 MRI on a monthly scale, so you can rebound on a monthly scale, but Binance token looks like you can put a fork in it. All right, guys, thank you all for watching, and see you all on the next one. Bye, guys.